you still think that the Conservative Party is institutionally racist despite the findings in this report, or despite the conclusion, rather, of this report?
I think the findings of this report show clearly that the Conservative Party is institutionally racist, and that's based upon the definition of what is institutional racism. The Macpherson inquiry was very clear. It defines institutional racism as, and I'll quote this, the collective failure of an organisation detected in processes, attitudes and behaviour. And each of those processes, attitudes and behaviour in this particular case and in the findings of this report are found. I mean, the report highlights that the party's processes have failed and need an overall haul, from policy to strategy to implementation to data collection. There is a root and branch overhaul being done because the process has failed. From attitudes, we're hearing as part of this report that people are still giving evidence anonymously. They don't feel confident to add their name to the evidence of racism that they're giving. And those that do give evidence, complainants, are seen as troublemakers. Behaviour, the report concludes that from the top, from the Prime Minister at one level, to local associations at the bottom, there is an attitude issue and a problem and a behaviour issue in terms of Islamophobia. So on each of those counts, it satisfies the definition of institutional racism. And Beth, you know, the way I see it, if it looks like institutional racism, feels like institutional racism, fits the definition of institutional racism, then I'm afraid it is institutional racism.
Is Boris Johnson part of the problem here?
I think Boris accepts that he is part of the problem and that he got it wrong in the past. And as he says himself, that words that he used and thought he could get away with a journalist are not the words that would suit a prime minister. And by that, what he's admitting is that his words are not prime ministerial. They are not acceptable, that they are insensitive towards Muslim communities. And I welcome the fact that there is now an acknowledgement that those words, whether they were used by Zach Goldsmith or Bob Blackman or Boris Johnson, were insensitive and unacceptable. And I think it's right that the party has apologised for those. But I also think that there is still further to go, and that even with this report, with some of its positive findings and some of its positive recommendations, still falls short. Because by concluding what is so obvious, that the party does have an institutional racism issue, by concluding that it does not, it clearly shows that there are flaws in the way in which this inquiry was conducted, flaws that I've already pointed out, and it requires the Equalities and Human Rights Commission to look at that.
Just on what the Prime Minister said, though, he has apologised when we go back to calling Muslim women wearing veils bank robbers or letterboxes. He has apologised for the offence he caused regarding those remarks. He hasn't actually apologised for making the remarks. And in the report, they say, we gave him an opportunity to apologise and offered the Prime Minister an opportunity to apologise for his past remarks. He said the following, and that he did not wish to add anything further. And then he says, I apologise for I'm obviously sorry for any offence taken. That's a bit of a non-apology, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he apologises for the offence he caused, which means he accepts that the words were offensive, and he accepts that they are not words that would suit a Prime Minister, and they are not words that he would use now. So I think you can conclude from all of that that it is a mealy-mouthed apology. And, you know, Boris is not known to apologise. But as far as I'm concerned, there is an acceptance that what he said was wrong, what he said was offensive, what he said was insensitive, and that he would not use those words again. And I think as far as I'm concerned, we can move on from that.